couple of months ago we did some work on double stops, and I have linked the old lessons in the description below in case you want to look back and swat up on them before you do this one. But we're going to take this a bit further and look at the tune The Salty Dog Blues. This is not the hardest melody, so for you beginner players I want you just to concentrate on getting the melody and the chords right, and then for you intermediate players we'll learn the melody and the chords, and then we'll look at how we can add some double stops. This is a useful little tune. It's in the key of G, which is all our previous lessons are in G as well, so it's nothing too different to what we were doing, but it doesn't necessarily stick to the G, C and D chords that the others did. It's got some what we call a circle of fifths, which I'm not going to go fully into in this lesson. That is a whole other can of worms that I am not going to open up in this short video. We'll start by learning the basic melody. And don't forget, I have tabbed this out. The tab of music is available free. Everything in this lesson is available as a free PDF worksheet, and that is linked below. So make sure you go and download it so you can play along with me. So the melody sounds a little like this. I'm going to play it twice, and it's after 3-4-1 because there's 3 beats to pick it up before it starts. So it sounds like this: 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. So there we have our basic Salty Dog Blues melody. Loop that round a few times until that melody is comfortable under the fingers, especially for you intermediate players who are then going to add double stops. Next we have the chords. Now the chords are really interesting. It's what is called a circle of fifths. It goes G to E to A to D and back to G. It's kind of a circle of fifths. Each chord is a fifth higher than the one before it, apart from the first two. So you go to E, and E is a fifth higher than A is a fifth higher than D, and D is a fifth higher than G. That's why it's a circle of fifths. Kind of a common used kind of phrase in a lot of jazz and western swing, things like that. That's what it sounds like. So there's 2 options of playing this, and it kind of depends on your level. For beginner players, I want you to play the chords with kind of the simple chords. So our basic G, then it goes to an E, and the E I suggest looks like this. It's 4, 2, 2, open. So it's G to E, then A is just 2, 2, open, open. And then your D is 2, open, open, 2. So they're the chords for you beginners to work on. G, E, A, and D. For you intermediate players who can kind of already do those chords quite comfortably, I want you to try and do it what we call closed, so there's no open strings. So if you can reach, I mean, if you can't reach, don't worry about it. You can do it like a 3-finger version, but you've got your bluegrass chop chord, which looks like that, which is going from high to low is 3, 2, 5, 7. It's a big reach with that little finger. So when you're starting out, if you can't get that little finger in, don't worry about it too much. Just kind of play it without. So it's kind of 3, 2, 5, and then an open string. And then the whole idea is that you keep your hand in this shape. So you kind of G's there, and then an E is down here. But if you look, my hand is making exactly the same shape. I'm just moving it. Whatever note this middle finger is playing is telling you what the chord is. This is a G, so this is a G chord, so I need to move it to E, which is down here, to give me an E chord. And then back down for an A, which is kind of 2 down from your original G. And then it goes across to D, and then back to G. It's all one big kind of pattern where these three fingers, first, second and third fingers, are just staying exactly as they are if you watch them. G, E, A, D, G. It's quite neat. I kind of like how that all looks. So practice that. Make sure you can move between them nice and easy. And don't worry too much about the little finger if it won't stretch. Get those three fingers moving between the melody, all the different chords until it's nice and quick. And now we'll have a little jam of it. I'm going to have the metronome in my ear. I'll start by playing the melody twice, and you should play chords, whatever chords you want. Obviously I can't tell you because I can't see what you're playing, but beginners, try and get those basic chords and then try and move on to the harder chords. And we'll swap it around a few times, but each time we do it twice. So 2 melodies, 2 chords, 2 melodies, 2 chords. And you can either do exactly what I'm doing, but the ideal is you doing the opposite of what I'm doing. So when I'm playing the melody, you're playing the chords, and then we swap round. After 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, it's about this speed. So your chords, whatever strumming pattern you want, you can just go for the. Like that if you want. I'll probably do something along those lines. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. G, E, A, D, back to G, 3, 4, 1, G, to E, to A, D, G. We're going to swap round. 3, 4, 1. Melody. Chords. G, A, D, three, four, 1, G, E, swap round for one more time now. Okay, now time to add some double stops. And before we start, let me play you an example. And again, this is on the PDF worksheet of one way you could add double stops to this melody. And then we'll quickly go over the theory. So it sounds a bit like this. Simple way of adding double stops. So the theory with double stops, if you missed it last time, is we have our melody note, and generally our melody note is one of the notes of the chord that's being played at that particular time. And then to make it into a double stop, you add another note from the chord, generally underneath, but you can add it over as well. If we take bar 1, not including the little pickup bar, so actual bar 1 after the repeat sign, it's a B note. That's what it does. And at that particular time, there's a G chord being played in the key of G. So we can add one of the other two notes that's in a G chord. So as soon as the B is being taken up, that leaves us with G or D to add. So we could add that G to make, or we could add that D. Or, I mean, we're going to discuss this later, but we could move where that is, play that B down here, and then we can add notes above it. So you've got 4 options there that you can add. All perfectly fine. 4 different options, all perfectly valid. And then you do that with every bar. So when it moves to E, you need to know what notes are in the E chord. And for us, well, any instrument, it's E, G sharp, and B. So when the melody again stays on B, we now need to change what notes we're adding. So we can add G sharp or E. So, which is why, in my example, I chose to add G in the first bar and then G sharp in second. There is that accidental C note in the first beat, which kind of makes it sound a bit weird, but it resolves quite quickly, so you don't have to worry too much about it. Just think of the melody as that B note. So that's all I did with every bar. Just think about what the melody is, what chord's being played, and then think about what other notes I've got spare that I can add to the melody to create the double stop. That's the theory. We're going to do another example now, which is a different way of doing it to show that there's kind of lots of different ways you can do it and no way is the right or wrong way. It's all personal preference. So the other option, also tabbed out on the worksheet below, sounds a bit like this. 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. Now that is tricky. You've kind of got your little finger playing 5s and 7s. So again, if that's not working for you on the bar 5 with a D, you could change that A note to an F sharp. Would sound absolutely fine. So it's kind of up to you to find your own way of playing it. Kind of what you do and don't like about double stops is very personal, and just find which ones you like, which ones you don't. And that's almost all I have for you for this lesson, but there's one more thing I want to discuss, and that is changing position. As I showed earlier, when we're playing our very first note, the B, we've got some options for double stops. But if we change where that B is being played, so instead of being played there, we could play it on the 9th fret on the D string. It opens up more options. It opens up this note here, which isn't available when we're down there. So sometimes changing position, changing where the note is that you're playing, opens up more double stop options for you. So again, I've got another example of what that would sound and look like. And this is quite an extreme example, so you probably wouldn't play the whole break in different positions. You'd maybe just do the first phrase, and then you can do the rest down here. But this is what the third example sounds like, and you can try and play along if you want. So it'll be after 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. Then it shifts back down, and then back down here. Do that again. 3, 4, 1. Shift back down. So again, as I said, that's quite extreme, but hopefully it shows you how moving around the fretboard can give you some other options, and it's worth playing around with to see where all your other double stop options are. To finish this lesson, I think all I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the chords around a few times, and it's over to you to play the melody however you want. You can add as many or as few double stops as you want. That's the point with them. You could literally just play it on the first phrase, and then that's it. No more double stops. That's totally fine. That's up to you. But I'll just play the chords round. I'll play it round twice, and then you can just keep rewinding until you feel comfortable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Repeat. So that's it for this month's lesson. There are some tricky concepts in there, especially for you intermediate players trying to add double stops. So this might take a while for you to sort of absorb everything and interpret it into your own playing. The main thing that I would suggest working through is working through the worksheet. I've put in the arpeggios that you need, so that should be able to help you see what notes you can add to create the double stops. And yeah, just keep practicing, and eventually you'll find a way of playing them that you'll like doing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you've enjoyed it, and sign up to the mailing list on mandolin.com, and we'll see you next month.